What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Jared Barnes Show. I am your host, Jared Barnes. Today, just me and Nate, but will be a fun episode. Got to start with the sad news of the week so far. The tragic passing of Mike Leach. It pretty much came out over the weekend that he was suffering. He suffered a heart attack, was having some complications, and was in the hospital. And like legit prayers were needed, is what the tweet said. And I was kind of taken aback by it. I wasn't sure if it was a real thing. Mississippi State still had not issued a statement or anything like that. And then the news comes out Monday night that Mike Leach um, did pass away late Monday night into Tuesday. And, prayers for his family and everything like that. It's a very sad time, uh, specifically for the family, but also for the entire college football world. The Mississippi State football program as a whole, they're now going to have to, they didn't think that they were going to have to hire a head coach, and now they have to go through that. And I'm sure that's going to be hard for the players. Like, they have a bowl game coming up. Like, I want to see them win big time. Even if it's rigged, I wouldn't care. Like, want to see that team win for Coach Leach. And I think they will. Like, because they're a good football team. But it's just tragic and sad. It's a massive loss to the college football world. And Nate's a Pac-12 fan, so he might have, you know, some more fond memories of Coach Leach. But it's just so sad and so tragic to hear.
Yeah, I mean, not as much talked about as he should be. He's probably one of the greatest football minds to ever. He's a great mind, creator of the air raid offense. Worked at Washington State, worked at Texas Tech. I mean, I saw it at Washington State all the time. Like we never were able to beat Arizona State was never able to beat Washington State's air raid offense. He made quarterbacks NFL prospects that should never have been NFL prospects. Um, but he was just an all time, even with press conferences, with his anything having to do with the media. He was an all time coach. He once was talking about if the Pac-12 mascots always got into a fight. He was saying, what mythical powers does the Sun Devil have? We have to consider that. What like does the Trojan have a horse? Does the Ute have a horse? Uh, the beaver gets destroyed. He just went off. Um, and he was great all time. I loved playing Washington State just for that post game press conference. Very very saddened when he left the Pac-12, and now even a little bit more sad that he's gone. Um, we wish his family the best. Prayers up for his family, prayers up for Mississippi State. Um, but yeah, it's just not the kind of news I was hoping to hear. Uh, yeah, but prayers up to him and rest in peace, Mike.
One of my favorite things about Mike Leach is how he recruited quarterbacks. Like, he would it was just hilarious because when Gardner Minshew first popped off in the NFL, his first year when he became like like a legendary figure in the NFL just because of the way he looked, the way he dressed, the way he acted on the sidelines, just the way he played the game of football. He went to Washington State, 6th round pick, got drafted to Jacksonville. He's current backup quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles. I think a lot of teams would like him to be their backup quarterback, and Philly's lucky to have him. But I remember in an interview he said like Mike Leach recruited him by saying like, "Hey, do you want to come lead the league, lead the nation in passing yards?" And then a bunch of quarterbacks were like, he said the same pitch to me. He pitched the same pitch to quarterbacks and was like, "Do you want to come lead the nation in passing yards and passing touchdowns?" And like he knew he had so much faith in his offense to do just that. And he knew if he had a decent quarterback, he was going to win some pretty good games and he was going to have a very high scoring offense. His current quarterback, Will Rogers, was that. Gardner Minshew was that. Cliff Kingsbury, current NFL head coach, he's that. Like, which brings us really to our first point. Unless, did you have something else to add? Cliff Kingsbury, the Cardinals, the future of that organization as a whole. What does that look like? Because Kyler Murray tore his ACL Monday night on Monday Night Football. In the third play of the game, a non-contact ACL tear, a tragic injury to happen. It's never a good thing when you see a guy tear his ACL on a non-contact, especially because that means it's pretty severe and a pretty tragic injury. And you could just tell the Cardinals were out of it after that. Like that game was, you could have pretty much wrapped that game up to the Patriots after that. Like they couldn't protect Colt McCoy. That offensive line, not very good. That offensive line currently, actually, believe it or not, has 3 guys that are on that team that were not on training camp rosters anywhere in the league.
Dang.
Do the quick math there. 90 players on every team for a training camp roster. You got a 90-man roster. So let's go. That's like, so if you do quick math, 32 times 100, that's 3,200. Then you minus 320 off of that. You got like 2,900. Not great at math. Don't judge me. 2,000 like 820. 2,880.
Moral of the story is it's just a lot. Let's just go with a lot of
let's
lot of lot of
let's
problems.
not fry my brain trying to do math. But yeah, exactly. Moral of the story: a lot of players and offensive linemen kind of sometimes see the shaft when it comes to cutdowns because you only really keep about 8, even if you're a run heavy offense, because like maybe you need a player to play special teams. An offensive lineman ain't going to play special teams. They're not going to help in punt coverage. They're not going to help in kickoff coverage. You can't really put them out there to block at this point because you can no longer do the wedge. So to have 3 guys that weren't on 90-man rosters, not great. You kind of prefer having a guy that's, seen some NFL experience whatsoever, but even in training camp, and those guys that are currently on the roster and on that offensive line have not. So that's never great. But with Kyler Murray, I mean, you look at the story of this past offseason of after their playoff game, he was supposedly linked to, have some bad leadership, and that organization had some issues where, the playoff bonuses are handed out to coaches, and coaches that make the playoffs get a very, very lofty bonus. Supposedly, those bonuses were not handed out to the coaches. And then you hear in the media people talking about, is Kyler Murray a really good leader? Almost kind of like he quit on his team in that playoff game. The organization seemed to be in a dumpster fire situation for a team that had just made the playoffs, even though they did get bounced by their division rival, Los Angeles Rams, who ultimately won the Super Bowl that year. Like, you literally lost to the Super Bowl champion. It's not like you lost to a team that lost in the next round. You did lose to the Super Bowl champion, but they are in your division. You don't want to see something like that happen. So at the same time, not great. And then you take into account that after that part of that offseason where Kyler's leadership is questioned, he gets a massive contract, $230.5 million, not fully guaranteed like the Deshaun Cosby contract, but at the same time, you know, still a lot of money to invest in a guy. And then they put the clause in there, has to watch 4 hours of film every single week to guarantee his money is paid. It's like, all right, what if he doesn't watch the film? Well, he could get cut and all his money could go away and, he won't get a dime of it. It's like, oh, that's a pretty hefty clause to put in there for a guy that's your franchise quarterback. And for like 2 weeks, it took over all of sports media, all of sports radio, ESPN, every talk show on the internet that you could find was talking about Kyler Murray and his contract. Everywhere you went, that's what the only thing people were talking about. It was the leading topic on pretty much every single show. Why is that? NFL is king, and nobody cares about baseball. But let's be fair, especially during the summer when there's nothing else to talk about sports wise. It's definitely more interesting to talk about Kyler Murray than a 2-1 baseball game. But everything seems to be on fire over there. Like, what is the future in your mind, Nate, for the Arizona Cardinals?
Yeah, I mean, the situation in Arizona has always been bad. Arizona is not a place, where athletes spend a long career most of the time. Most of the time, Arizona sports get aging stars, or they get a rookie that eventually is gonna be traded on another team. Like Phoenix Suns, I know we had Isaiah Thomas. He got shipped off to Boston. He did great things. Charles Barkley, we had Charles Barkley. He got shipped off. He asked for a trade. With the Cardinals, only really star that they've had in a long time, were 2 quarterbacks, and that was,
I don't know if there's an audio issue or not, but I cannot hear Nate. He was talking. Do that again.
you back?
Oh, we're back.
Okay. Man, sorry. We had issues with audio before, so we this is the second attempt at an episode, so we were hoping we didn't have to restart again. But yeah, Arizona in and of itself is just it's not a place where people spend long careers. And if a rookie like rookies don't spend a lot of time here. I mean, we had what's his name from Underdog, Kurt Warner and Carson Palmer. Those are the two quarterbacks that have ever really done anything for the Arizona Cardinals. They were old aging stars. Kurt Warner almost made the Super Bowl. Kurt he did make the Super Bowl. He lost. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's your guys' Super Bowl. Um, so that's just a characteristic with Arizona sports. I think people know something's up, and I remember specifically after one game, I'm not sure. Kyler Murray said schematically, we're screwed. After a play, he's saying the play didn't run right, and schematically, like we're screwed. Like we don't know how to run plays. Basically, he was calling his coach out. Um, Kyler, you don't play well during double XP weekends. Like, that's a fact. You can go look up the stats behind it. But you statistically do not play well during double XP weekends for Call of Duty. Um, so, I mean, people have questioned your love of the game before you were drafted. People think that you probably shouldn't have gone number one. People were saying you're not a great leader. I mean, we want to believe otherwise, but you have not shown us anything to prove us otherwise. And that's kind of the thing for me is Kyler Murray is not a franchise guy, in my opinion. Not somebody that I would wanna build a franchise. Extremely talented player. Um, maybe with the right coach, he'll be unlocked, but I'm pretty sure Cliff Kingsbury was not the guy to hire. I think you saw the same thing with Trevor Lawrence. He got started with Urban Meyer, and that was a dumpster fire in and of itself. He was not a quarterback whisperer at all. That's what stunted, Trevor Lawrence's growth, and we're seeing him now ball out. He was the AFC Offensive Player of the Week, and
He had a fantastic game as well.
so, like, that's what I'm saying. I think a lot of the problems do stem from Kyler Murray himself, but I think if you got a good coach to light a fire under him, he would be great. I would say fire Steve Keim, because he hasn't been a great GM for the longest time. People in Arizona have been calling for for him to be fired. People have been calling for Cliff to be fired. I think since week 6, people have been calling for those 2 people to be fired. But, actually, when we were restarting, we saw a tweet talking about Steve Keim. He is on a medical leave of absence, and he's gonna be replaced. Do you wanna talk about the tweet?
So he is on a leave of absence. The Cardinals statement was this: the Arizona Cardinals general manager is currently on a health related leave of absence. Can you hear me? Okay. Keim's duties, they're currently being handled by interim basis by Vice President of Player Personnel Quentin Harris and Vice President of Pro Personnel Adrian Wilson. This is my favorite part of the statement. I just think it's kind of funny. Out of respect for privacy, which is required by law, I feel like they didn't need to throw that part in there. But then again, like,
Arizona sports fans, they do. We do
okay,
not care. Like,
okay,
they needed to put that in
okay.
there.
That makes more sense because it did seem like it was kind of a slight jab at somebody. I thought maybe it was, thought maybe this was, hey, don't know, COVID maybe? I mean, not saying that he has COVID, but I thought this was kind of a jab at all the COVID situations with you could see where I'm kind of going with that, but like, it's definitely not involving that. I don't think I honestly hope that he's okay. Don't want to see Steve Keim have a tragic health issue and then pass away. Even if Arizona sports fans hate him. I've never, you know, had any personal experiences with like Steve Keim as like a GM, so I don't know. I just thought like he's comes across to me as a cool dude, but maybe he isn't great with talent wise on a team. Don't know how long he's been in Arizona, but the end of the statement with the team will refrain further from commenting. And the two players that I mentioned that are going to be replacing him on an interim basis, if they do fire Keim or Keim steps down because of his medical absence here, Quentin Harris, a former player who was a safety for the Cardinals, probably actually at the same time as the other player that is currently working with him as an interim as well. Both of the players that were there on an interim basis taking over as GM is Adrian Wilson and Quentin Harris. Quentin Harris was a safety in Arizona from 2002 to 2005. Adrian Wilson was also playing safety. Quentin Harris undrafted. Adrian Wilson, third round pick, was in the league for 15 years. Quentin Harris, undrafted, was in the league for like 6, 7 years. But at the same time, it's like, what a run! Like, hey, what a career you had. But they were probably playing safety at the same time in Arizona. They were on the roster as players at the same time for a couple years. Like Adrian Wilson got there in 2001. Quentin Harris got there in 2002. Quentin Harris might have been Adrian Wilson's backup. Like these guys know how to work well together. Like I'm intrigued to see how they do because they like immediately upon Adrian Wilson retiring, he became a regional scout for the Cardinals, then a director of pro scouting. Now he's the vice president of pro scouting. Quentin Harris, after he retired in 2007, in 2008, he became a scout for the Arizona Cardinals. Then he was director of pro scouting. And then immediately after he was no longer in that position, that's when Adrian Wilson took over as director of pro scouting. That was his immediate replacement. So they obviously like each other because he probably helped handpick Adrian for that job. And then in 2019, Quentin Harris took over director of player personnel, and he's currently the vice president of player personnel, like I said in the statement. Like these guys obviously work probably very well together, and I think it's going to be awesome to see what they do. Would be really cool to see one of those guys get the GM job, and then you see an assistant GM. One of those, like seeing a former player in that kind of spot, it's probably really, it's in my mind is really cool because they understand probably the locker room a little bit at least. There could be some culture issues there. I mean, I do, like you mentioned, Cliff Kingsbury maybe not being the right hire. When you look at the career that Kyler's had since he's been there, it just seems like at times he was completely disinterested in some of the games that he was like. You didn't know what kind of a game you were getting out of Arizona because Kyler would, depending upon the day, look like he did not care about the game. And on days like that, Cardinals would lose. Like if it didn't look like Kyler really cared, he's not an emotional guy, doesn't show a lot of emotion. Never has. Not in his college career. If you go back to his high school tape, like didn't show it a lot then. And has not showed it in the NFL really at all. And I wonder if part of that is just Cliff, like maybe they've been in a schematically a pretty screwed up spot for a while. Because that's the only coach Kyler's ever had. Like head coach wise, that's the only coach he's ever had. Cliff was hired because they wanted to draft Kyler. Because the year prior, they did such a bad job with Steve Wilkes when they drafted Josh Rosen that they literally had the first overall pick and said, there's no way we can keep going with this guy. Have to fire him and replace the quarterback. And this is the situation they're now in where it's like, we just paid this guy. What's the problem? Because they also supposedly paid Cliff Kingsbury and extended him. And they also extended Steve Keim. So, like, this organization was preparing to go on a, like, legit run with those three there for a while. And Cliff's seat, I don't think Steve Keim would fire him. But that owner, I think, wants to win. I mean, he brought in J.J. Watt last year, who, you mentioned the players on maybe the back end of their careers coming there. There's very few players that have been there and stayed there. Fitz is a guy that stayed there. He was there for a very long time. But not a lot of guys go to Arizona and stay in Arizona. Budda Baker's going to be there for a long time. But you hope so. But if they start losing like this, Budda might, hey, bounce. Like, why wouldn't you? Because I wouldn't want to be there. Yeah. And when Kyler got drafted, it was always talked about, like, especially when he looked disinterested. Oh, is this guy just like bored and wants to go play baseball? Because he was literally a first round pick in baseball. He's just that athletic. Like he was like 9th overall in baseball, 1st overall in the NFL, 9th overall in baseball. Like you don't see that ever. And he could still probably retire and go play baseball if he wanted to. I'd assume there's a clause in his contract that would not allow him to do so, and he'd lose all that football money. But it's going to be interesting to see what the Cardinals' future is really like at this point because they're in a bad spot with as bad as they've been this year. A very, very bad spot. You have anything else to add?
I think this offseason is just going to be super telling of what's going to go on in Arizona. People have been calling for the firing of Cliff for a long time. If Cliff Kingsbury gets fired, I don't. You honestly, you never know with Arizona sports. When a head coach gets fired and you're a great team, usually that's the start of, yeah,
A rebuild.
and that's what everyone in Arizona is scared of. Because like for us, we have 1 or 2 good years, and then 15 years of sucking, absolutely sucking. and then 1 or 2 years that are good, we think we're on the rise again. 1 or 2 years of sucking, or so 10 years. And so that's the thing, is that we're scared of, is that we had all these great pieces, we had all this great talent, but now we're just gonna go back into a rebuild again. But that's just what we do. I mean, the only sports franchise to ever win a championship is the Arizona Diamondbacks. 2001, the youngest MLB franchise to ever do it. And we started off great. And then same thing, 10 years of sucking. We got some good players back in 2011, 8 years of sucking. We made the playoffs 2018, sucked again. That's just the trend in Arizona sports. I mean, unless you're the Phoenix Mercury, that's the only exception. And the Arizona Rattlers, our arena football team. So in pro sports,
They are dogs.
oh yeah.
Don't ever. If you're somebody like Arizona Rattlers are very talented. Like, yeah.
And so that's just what we're scared of the most is, so this offseason is going to be very telling of who the Arizona Cardinals are going to be. But yeah, I I'm not a Cardinals fan. I'm a Cowboys fan, which is great. Because I don't have to deal with all that. The Cowboys are a great brand. But speaking of the Cowboys, though, I'm just to move on to the next point. Cowboys added T.Y. Hilton after the long drama that happened with Odell Beckham. And, I'm happy that we got T.Y. Hilton. I'm Everyone wanted Odell Beckham. He's definitely the more talented person. T.Y. Hilton's a 33-year-old that was not on the NFL roster to start the season. But you know that he's been the number one for the Colts for the longest time. He's a veteran guy, and he's going into a team that doesn't need him. Like, we didn't really need to sign T.Y. Hilton. I think that, like, for the playoff push and to compete with the Eagles, I think you maybe needed another piece. But then again, I don't really know that Cowboys needed him. But I think it's just going to be a into our offense. Dak has been spotty at best. He's leading the number one offense, but the run game, his offense is predicated on the run game. Run game's great. Dak's been throwing interceptions left and right. That's a problem that needs to get fixed up. Um, so we'll see how it goes. I'm very excited to see what this Cowboys offense looks like this next week, and then especially Christmas Eve when we play the Eagles. So very excited to see what this Cowboys team looks like with T.Y. Hilton. Do you have any thoughts on the Cowboys adding? Um,
I think it's a great move. Ty has, in my opinion, like been one of the most underrated receivers in the most recent years of the NFL.
oh yeah,
He is a guy. Colts had nobody last year. Ty got healthy. They started doubling Ty. The second Ty got healthy at 32. Like they were doubling Ty. They had Michael Pittman Jr. last year. Didn't worry about him. Double Ty.
Taylor too. That's why he popped off.
Double Ty because teams were scared of his speed. He's still a burner. He's not Deshaun Jackson level burner, but he'll burn you. And teams are scared of Ty. Adding him, it's gonna take him a minute to get, in the rhythm of the offense. But adding a guy like Ty is fantastic. He's gonna play before Odell, which is also key. Because Ty is gonna get some actual reps before the playoffs. Odell wasn't gonna take a snap until first week of playoffs. That was maybe when he was going to be able to play, if then, which is why I think, he might end up going completely unsigned. But it was in my mind, it was a great move because they just lost Terrence Steele, right tackle. And Zach Martin and Terrence Steele, maybe the best guard tackle duo in the entire game currently. And maybe even on the right side of that offensive line was so good. That was maybe the best offensive line side of any football team. And that's saying a lot because the Eagles are in your division and they have that offensive line that they have with Jordan Mailata, Lane Johnson, Jason Kelsey. They have some dogs on that line. And I thought that was the best side of an offensive line in all of football. But there is some issues that I think are going to happen to the Dallas offense. Adding Ty is going to help massively because when you lose an offensive line guy like that, I think teams are going to just kind of maybe stack, they weren't going to stack the box because you still have to fear CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup as receivers because they're very good.
Yeah.
You guys have some other receivers that just haven't really turn into much. Like James Washington, like what happened to James Washington? He was not a guy in Pittsburgh, but like he was a playmaker in Pittsburgh. Like when a big play needed to happen, I feel like James Washington made it. And he just has he even played for you guys this year?
I haven't heard his name at all. I like when we signed him, I'm like, oh, he's going to be our returner, our punt returner, and it's been Turpin, but Turpin really hasn't done anything. Like
Yeah.
this last game against the Texans, he had a muffed punt, and so I am I don't know. I haven't heard of him. Like I don't know if he got injured or anything, but I was expecting him to be our punt returner. I wasn't expecting him to do much on offense, but I was expecting him to be our punt returner at the very least. Is there any news on 3 or anything?
I do believe he just came off IR, which is maybe why we haven't heard anything. He was on IR this whole time. Yep, just activated off the injured reserve, set to make season debut versus the Texans. I mean, he did nothing in that game,
No.
but he's now on the roster at least. So with that being said, Turpin's really good. Like Turpin's an athlete, not a receiver, but like what he did in the USFL as a returner was electric, and that's why he was brought into Dallas. Hasn't made that, transition like but you can still see his athletic prowess every time he steps on the field, like just how fast he is and stuff like that. Would love to see you guys be able to use that in an actual game though. Like with him on the field, maybe he just isn't all that good, but athletically he brings a lot. But I think Tony Pollard is you're gonna see he's been used a lot. Tony Pollard has this year. I think you're going to see this week specifically. I don't know if you're going to see, you might see a package or two for TY, but TY is not going to get a lot of snaps. If I had to guess, TY will be in like 10 to 15% of the offensive snaps just based on like how that kind of goes when you re-sign a guy or they get healthy. I think you'll see Tony Pollard like receive like a large majority of the snaps because they might line Tony Pollard up in the slot a lot. They did it this week for a run play.
Yeah.
They did that toss back run play where it was a fake to Zeke up the middle and did like the reverse handoff with Tony Pollard like kind of lined up out wide, and it was a touchdown. Like do that a little more, do that little creativity with Tony Pollard because him and Zeke on the field at the same time is great for that offense.
Yeah, and I think we're gonna see a lot of things be pulled out of the hat. Kellen Moore is gonna do a lot of things because we do play the Jaguars. Um, I mean, Trevor Lawrence is playing good, but I view this as another bye week. To be honest with you,
I don't know about that. Jaguars have played very good football against some very good teams.
yeah. I mean, still though, I'm not super afraid. I still think we're gonna try a lot of things. I mean, T.Y. Hilton, I do think he's gonna get 20% of the play calls. He's not gonna get a whole lot, but still though, I do think that Kellen Moore is gonna try a lot of stuff against the Jacksonville Jaguars defense.
One of the biggest coincidences of all time is actually them signing him the week after they play the Texans. You want to know why? He is known as the Texan Killer. Like that was his one of his nicknames in Indy.
Really?
He every time he played the Texans, he was statistically one of the greatest receivers of all time when he played specifically the Texans.
To be fair though, everyone is a Texan killer. To be honest, like
I mean, y'all,
you know what I mean?
y'all, y'all almost lost to the
That,
Texans.
that was a trap game, but you know what I mean. Like
It was a trap game. It was a trap game, and signing him just after the Texans game was just kind of like to me like, all right, you guys know you needed a Texan killer, and he just came a week late. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. He's just like, yeah, he's all Ty is awesome. I think you're gonna really like you're gonna be. I think Ty is gonna shock you, even at 33. He'll make a play or two, maybe this week even, because they're gonna throw him the ball this week. They're gonna line a play up for him and if he plays, that he's gonna get the ball 2 or 3 times. I guarantee it, because you have to get him involved in active. You have to get him involved in active early because he is a vet. He knows the drill. He knows he's not number 1 or 2, but yeah,
Are you lining him up in the slot? Are you
I'm putting him out wide, putting CD in the slot. Actually,
that,
I want CD to have that mismatch because I'm lining Ty up because Ty is running a straight downfield. Like I'd rather Ty run straight downfield and let CD do some work in the slot. That's what I would do personally.
yeah, I mean CD, I like him in the slot. Like when we ever use him in the slot, it's always great. Because Michael Gallup, he's a one. So what like he will fight people for balls.
He's physically like an outside guy, Michael Gallup. He's not an inside guy at all.
And so now you add T.Y. Hilton. who has been a number one for the longest time. So you have a 1, a 2, and then you have some guy in the slot, whether that's Brown or whether that's CD. I mean, I love CD in the slot. CD is a fast guy. We use him in running plays all the time. I'm really excited to see what this Cowboys offense looks like after this week because there's so many weapons that Dak has to work with. Like we're not on the level of Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey. We're not on that level. But I mean, collectively, we're one of the greatest not greatest, sorry, one of the best offenses in the NFL right now, I would say.
That's apparent by the point differential you guys have had this season. Like you were mentioning to me a graphic earlier of the point differential from teams, and Dallas has a astronomically high point differential, just like the division rival Eagles. And there's some teams in that, on that graphic that you mentioned that maybe have a much lower point differential as well.
Yeah, so the point differential, Eagles are plus 138, no surprise at all. They're number 1. This is based upon their seeding right now, so based upon record. So Eagles are 12-1, plus 138. Bills are 10-3, plus 132. Cowboys 10-3, plus 131. Chiefs plus 86. They don't have the greatest defense of all time, so I understand that point differential. The Vikings are 10-3, but they're -1. And that's the only outlier in this whole graphic. I mean, besides the Dolphins, who are +4, they didn't have Tua, so I cut them some slack. But the Vikings have been healthy this whole time. I think their defense, there's some definite question. It's somewhat reminiscent of your Steelers.
Extremely reminiscent of my Steelers because my Steelers won a bunch of close games a few years ago. We were 11-0, and actually, some people said maybe they just hand them the ring right now and hand them the Lombardi because we are 11-0. Why don't you give it to us now? I wish they would have given it to us then because we dropped 5 games in the regular season and then got pummeled in what looked like it was going to be Ben Roethlisberger's final game as a Pittsburgh Steeler.
That was the Browns, right?
Yeah, it looked like it was going to be his final game versus the Steelers, and it luckily wasn't, and his career did continue, but, like, what a shame that was. Like, that was a shame. Like, us getting bounced by the Browns, and then you look now, and Baker's no longer even part of the Browns. That team is completely revamped. It's wild. It's wild, but moving on to a team that added a weapon, that wasn't Odell, but another team that was in the Odell race and added a weapon. Cole Beasley returned to Buffalo this week. Cole Beasley, earlier in the season, was signed to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, was there for like a week or so. He was active for one game and was like, I think he might have done a look around and was like, oh, this isn't like a regular Tom Brady team. We're not going to win a lot of games. We're obviously not going to win a championship. I think I'm gonna go back to my family. I think I'm gonna retire. I came here to win a championship. I don't think we're gonna make it to. At that time, I don't think he thought they were gonna make it to the playoffs. They were so bad.
Yeah.
He was there for 1 week and said, "You know what, Tom? Maybe you should join me and go back and maybe try to fix your family life." Cole Beasley went back to his family. I don't think a lot of people knew that he was even looking to come back. I think the Bills just were like, "Hey, listen, you know the offense. Gabe Davis has come along. Stephon Diggs is here. You're not even going to be asked to be a 2 anymore. You're going to be asked to be a 3." Like, and he was like, well, you guys understand that I'm unvaccinated and I hate COVID and I'm a political figure at this point.
And a rapper.
And a rapper. Guys got bars. He made an entire diss track on COVID. And an entire diss track on COVID itself. The disease COVID, he made a diss track. I would play it. I don't know if he's signed to a record label because that diss track, not gonna lie, kind of fire. Someone should sign him because that diss track on COVID, very good. Not gonna play it for you guys, but I will. Maybe I'll. This is something I'm thinking about, making a playlist of like music that I'm listening to and dudes in the show are listening to. We'll end like every Friday episode we'll go off of YouTube and there'll be like a special audio part where we just play like the song we're kind of jamming to, kind of enjoying at this moment. And we'll make a playlist. First song we'll throw on that playlist is Cole Beasley's COVID diss track. That's the first song we'll put. That'll be the top song. That will always be the top song. We'll definitely do that for you guys. said it on the show live, so now I have to do it. So that'll be done some point when we start doing stuff like that next year. But yeah, that'll be fun to watch, fun to see. But Cole Beasley being back on the Bills, I think it's gonna be like fun to watch. Like he was really good in Buffalo. The year, I think it was 2 years ago, he was one of their best receivers. Like statistically, one of their best receivers. And now they have Diggs in that receiver room. They have Gabe Davis who's really come along. They have some other guys. Like that'd be a fun receiver room to watch. It's interesting though because I think that definitely knocks them out of the Odell race as well. And that the three teams that were really big in that race were the Giants, the Cowboys, and the Bills. And I'd say two of those teams are now out of that race. The question now is, will Odell Beckham Jr. end up signing anywhere? I don't think so. At this point, I don't think so.
This season, no. I think because the Giants, I've kind of proven that they're no longer contenders. I
I don't think they ever were. I said I think once that I thought they could be,
mhm,
and then their offensive line play kind of stopped and Saquon got unhealthy. If Saquon
yeah,
remains healthy and their offensive line continues to do what they're doing, I would have said still to this day I think they could have been, but especially with the Eagles figuring things out, Dallas figuring things out, there's no shot.
but, like, that's, like, the greatest what if with the Giants, is what if Saquon was healthy? And, like, he hasn't been healthy at all these past couple seasons. Like, his rookie season, he got hurt, like, in the 8th game and then never played again. He got hurt in his 2nd year. This is 3rd or 4th year.
This is his fourth year,
Yeah,
and I do believe they did not pick up his fifth year option. No, this is his fifth year. They picked up his fifth year option. I'm stupid. This is his fifth year. He was the same draft class as Baker Mayfield.
yeah, that's right.
And he'll be a free agent this upcoming year. They did not pick up Daniel Jones's option. Also be a free agent after this upcoming year.
Yeah.
You can only pay one of those guys. Saquon hasn't really been healthy. Your team's money wise pretty strapped because you're paying a wide receiver a lot of money who's not doing nothing.
No.
I love bringing that up because I was a Kenny Galladay fan, thought it was a good signing. Nothing he's done absolutely nothing for that team. And Odell did say him and Saquon have unfinished business.
I I was gonna mention that. I
So it'll be interesting to see if he does maybe end up going back to the Giants at some point.
Yeah, that's the only scenario I see Odell is him saying, "I'm gonna go back to the Giants. I'm gonna play for them during the playoffs," which may only be one game, which I don't know who they're matched up with right now.
I don't know if they're gonna make the playoffs at this point.
I wouldn't go that far.
I think I mean how many losses do they have? We'll figure that out. I'll mention the Chiefs.
Okay.
Chiefs have actually been linked to him. They've stayed in contact with him. Jordan Schultz reported it earlier this week. Uh, they've been linked. The Chiefs have stayed in contact, and yeah, that's been interesting to me that the Chiefs stayed in contact. I typed in Giants schedule on Google, and I literally got San Francisco Giants. Like I would like to know. And let's be honest, when you hear Giants as a franchise, what's the first one you think of, Nate? First one you think of when you hear Giants?
For me personally, I think of the San Francisco Giants just because 'cause they're in our division.
Shouldn't ask you.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
like, yeah, no, because I don't care about the Giants. The Giants have done jack squat. The only thing that relevantly they've ever done in the past 5 years, for me, is beating the Cowboys twice during our 14-2 season. So, not a whole lot of stuff that they've done in my opinion. But, looking at this playoff race, the Giants are at 7,
they have no shot. Have no shot.
Detroit's right there, Seattle's right there, Green Bay is dead. I don't care what anybody says, Green Bay is dead. They're not coming back. So basically, in a race between the Giants and the Lions, surprised that I'm saying this now. If you told me last year I'd be saying this,
We agree, by the way.
yeah. Well, I mean, it would be crazy to saying that the Giants and the Lions were both competing for a playoff spot. So that's crazy in of itself. Which sucks because I wanted the whole NFC East to make the playoffs. Doesn't look like it's gonna happen. With Saquon being hurt and all. So yeah, they probably won't even make the playoffs. So I don't see Odell signing this year. He's probably going to be one of the best free agents to be in that class. So coming after the season.
There's a chance the Giants don't win a game the rest of the way out. They play the Washington Commanders on Sunday Night Football this week. That's an L. Then the next week, they're in Minnesota. I think they can't stop Justin Jefferson. They're going to lose that game.
What time?
That is a noon game.
L.
That's an L because prime time Kirk Cousins not good. 12 o'clock Kirk Cousins, though. Well, not 12 o'clock. 1 o'clock Kirk Cousins Eastern time, 12 Central time, because that's the time I'm currently seeing because we're in Central time.
Special.
Technically, that's 12 Central time for Kirk, but Kirk Cousins at noon is a very, very good player. Then, unless he's playing the Lions, then they play Indianapolis in a home game. I don't know. That could be a loss. In my mind, that's a loss. And then they play at Philly, final week of the season. They might lose to Gardner Minshew in that game.
Oh yeah, they're resting everybody.
They'll probably rest everybody in that game and still lose. Because if you think of the Philly backup guys on that team, think of their running backs, dude. Kenneth Gainwell, very good. Like they are so deep at running back, it's not funny.
NFC Championship game is going to be so hype.
Yeah.
Cowboys, Eagles. It's going to be fun, man.
Yeah.
Eagles are a great team. I'm
Yeah.
very excited to see what they do.
Yeah. And I mean, it could. I mean, how many losses does Dallas have right now? 3? All right, maybe it won't. I was gonna say what if Dallas beats Philly and then that last game Philly has to win out, but Philly won't have to win out. They have 1 loss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we
So-
beat them, it's 2. If they lost, they would still. I don't know.
Well, see, here's the thing.
Because they'll be.
If you guys beat them, Philly has to play their starters in that game because Philly can't afford to lose.
Yeah.
Because then you guys would have the tiebreaker over them.
And then they win the division.
Bingo.
So doesn't matter.
Giants are losing the last game. Giants might not win a game. I'm sorry, Adrian. You're a Giants fan. Don't know if you still listen to the show. Haven't seen you comment in a while. Adrian, if you're watching, leave a comment, Philly. For me, just personally for me, leave a comment. I need to hear. I need to see your comment. They brighten my day, and I'm sad to see you're not commenting anymore. It kind of hurts me a little bit. I'm not taking it personally. No, I'm not taking it personally. I understand. Got stuff going on. Don't know if school wise what you got going on, but like, again, that's definitely interesting. That being said, though, that's pretty much all the NFL stuff we had. We talked way longer about NFL stuff than I expected us to.
Yeah.
That's okay though, because we got some NBA stuff to talk about. So Nate, take it away with NBA talk with Nate.
Yeah.
Need to come up with a better name for this.
We'll figure it out.
Segment.
But yeah, I want to start off with I'm from Phoenix. Everyone knows that. Sorry, my camera. I'm from Phoenix, so I'm a Phoenix Suns fan. I'm Arizona Diamondbacks fan. I'm just not a Cardinals fan because Cardinals suck. They're not from Arizona. They're from Chicago. We won't get into that argument. But I am a Phoenix Suns fan, and I'm mad. What is going on in Phoenix? I really don't know. They're on a 5-game losing streak currently, and during this streak, they have lost to the 6-16 Rockets, the Mavericks by 20, the Pelicans twice. They got blown out in one and was a close game in another. And then they lost by the Celtics on national television by 27. They were down like 40 points in that game. I think we were filming an episode, and I turned it on to go watch a little bit of it. I got there late because I was watching the ASU game right before that. They were getting dog walked, and that was horrible.
That was the Pelicans game.
Huh?
You said that was the Pelicans game. Was that the game that Boston? What game did Zion just dunk on your franchise, dude?
That was the first game where we got blown out.
Oh man.
The worst part of that loss was there was a graphic that came out and said Luka and Zion are fighting for custody over the Phoenix Suns. That one hurt. It was a great tweet. Whoever did that, you need a raise wherever you're from because that is a great graphic, great tweet.
That sounds like Bleacher Report.
It wasn't.
It wasn't?
No.
Was that Ballsack Sports?
I don't know what it was. It was a smaller thing. You need more recognition. I want to pull it up. We'll give them credit eventually. But yeah, that's what's going on in Phoenix. Phoenix has been on a losing streak. They have not looked great. Mikal Bridges got a new graphic. It's called Bricked Up. Ballsack Sports is going to have a field day with that. Basically, Mikal Bridges shot 1 for 12 in that game. And so they're saying bricked up, he throwing up bricks, but we all know why they're going to be using that graphic. Um, but
What a graphic this is. Shout out basketball forever. My goodness, this
oh,
thing's fire, dude.
can you share the screen?
I will share the screen. That thing is fire, dude. Wow.
Yeah, that one hurt me. So as a Phoenix Suns fan, I'm pissed off just because our offense doesn't look great, our defense doesn't look great. Devin Booker's hurt, DeAndre Ayton's hurt, Cam Payne's hurt. Chris Paul just came back, so that's a little bit better. But dang, we're in a rough spot. Yeah.
Oh man, that's a great graphic. Shout out to them. I'm retweeting.
Yeah.
You guys will see it live. Me retweet.
Great graphic.
Gotta like it too. Wow. We won't look at the what they have to say on the
Comments.
yeah, I'm sure they're wild. So
Yeah.
sure they're wild.
Again, I don't understand why we all hate the Phoenix Suns. That's just something that I've never really understood. Because like we haven't been a great team in a long time. We've become a great team, and then you guys start hitting on us. Like I don't understand. I understand it's Chris Paul. Even though he's a part of the Phoenix Suns team, he is a dirty player. I've never really liked him. I just liked him because he was winning us games. But now he's not even doing that. So there's a lot of things going on in Phoenix. But that brings me into my next topic. Actually, so teams are starting to tank, and this is probably going to be something that's going to change the NBA landscape. Because December 15th, players that were signed in the free agency period during the summer are now eligible to be traded. So that means DeAndre Ayton, you're on the market. Any rookie that's been re-signed, you're on the market. Anybody that's gotten another deal during the free agency period, you're on the market. So with that, you see teams that are starting to tank because Victor Wembanyama's at the end of this draft and end of the year as well. So this is not something that the Pistons were trying to do because I thought they were trying to compete when they got Bojan Bogdanovic. But Cade Cunningham is out for the year with a season-ending surgery on his shin. Sad to see. It was I was really expecting great things from the backcourt of Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham. I thought they were going to be a dynamic duo. Cade's very methodical. Jaden Ivey is go, go, go. He's Russell Westbrook with a jumper. That's how I described him coming into the draft. He should not have gone fifth. The Kings messed up again, as they always do. Even though they're great right now, the Kings messed up in that draft again. But Pistons, they're out. They're tanking now. Cade Cunningham is hurt. He's their star player that could have been an all-star this year, I thought. But he's out for the year. The Spurs are not hiding their tanking. They went on an 11-game losing streak. I think 2 games ago. They have won a couple games, but again, the Spurs are going for Victor Wembanyama. They're going to do everything in their power to take it. And the Jazz, who started off hot and were doing so well, they start off 10-3. They're 5-11 since. And so that sucks to me because they have some great young pieces. Danny Ainge said, I've never built a team that's ever tanked before. Well, I think you are right about to. I think you're about to build a team that's tanking. You love Lauri Markkanen, great white representation in the NBA where there's not a whole lot. Him and Tyler Hero holding it down there. But yeah, that's the thing is so a lot of teams are starting to tank, but there is a lot of players who are saying, a lot of players, a lot of teams that are saying, hey, it's time for us to make moves. It's time for us to blow it up. It's time for us to become better a contender. I know you're a Rockets fan, or sorry, not a Rockets, Oklahoma City Thunder fan. With Victor Wembanyama being at the end of this trade deadline, and being in this year's draft, do you see the Thunder trading Shea to tank even more? Because he's been playing like an MVP, but do you see them trading him at all?
That's my biggest fear. Is that they do trade Shea. That's honest. As a Thunder fan, that's my biggest fear. Second, the season started, and there was talks of this all like players sent from basketball heaven to earth in Victor Wembanyama, a guy that can do it all at his size. My immediate fear was, oh, Shea's never gonna make it through the season on the Thunder roster. gonna get traded. Because I knew this year he was gonna come out and ball out. He's been in the league, what, 4 or 5 years now? 3 or 4 years maybe? I don't know. He's fourth year?
He was in the same draft as DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah, so
Fourth year.
fourth year. 4 years, like, that's when you should, if you're gonna figure it out at any point, like, you should kinda produce in your third or fourth year. And he's not been on a great team. He's always seemingly produced good numbers. Now, but like you said, MVP caliber player.
Yeah.
Like, could carry a franchise on your back type player. My opinion, not a guy you want to trade. But when you see a guy like Victor, the height that would be on your team with, Chet and Victor?
Okashevsky too.
Yeah. Like, but then again, I want Shea. I prefer Shea. I would rather have Shea because I know what we have with Shea. What if Victor Wembanyama comes in the league and he's just this all-world player that can never stay healthy? That height thing could be a real thing. Like, Chet already, not playing out for the whole year. And he's a tall dude. Like, we got one tall dude. We don't need two. All right, we're not the Bucks. We're not going to be the Bucks with Chris Middleton and Giannis. And when they tried to draft Don Maker and Malcolm Brogdon, they tried to have that enormously tall roster for no reason with, the Lopez brothers. Like, that was a wild roster that they had constructed.
I wanted Thon Maker to be good so bad.
Everybody did.
I wanted him to be
Everybody
good so
did.
bad.
But that name and, how big he was, and the fact that he was, I remember watching it. I was, 15, 16 when I was, discovered his highlights. I was like, this guy is a dog. And it was awesome, but he just never turned out to be anything. And he's, I think, out of the league now.
He is.
I assume. He's been out of the league for a few years, I think.
Going with your Victor Wembanyama point, I think we're already seeing Victor Wembanyama in the league already. And his name is Bobo. If you haven't watched any of his film, he's great. He's a backup power forward because Paulo is the starting power forward right now, for the Orlando Magic. So he's great. Paulo is a great player, for the Magic franchise.
Shout out Jeremiah doing blind check in our dorm.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that. But Bull is balling out. And the problem with him is everyone was saying, "Oh, he's not getting a chance," or "He has a bad attitude." I think he was injured. There was something with his foot. He never got surgery. He never told the Denver medical staff that he needed surgery, and that's why he didn't play those 3 years. Even though every time he stepped on that Denver court, he
produced. He
was amazing.
Yeah.
There was one time where the starting lineup was Jokic at point guard, Bobo at small forward, Michael Porter Jr. at shooting guard, Paul Millsap at power forward, and then they had somebody else at center. It was the tallest lineup to ever start. It was during the bubble, so people were trying things. But I think we're already seeing what Victor Wembanyama can do in the NBA if you watch Bobo's tape. So he's amazing where he is. I've stopped watching film on him. I've started looking at other guys because I already know what Victor Wembanyama is.
The first overall pick.
Yeah. No doubt about he would have to kill somebody. He would have to be committed of a felony. He would have to be committed of war crimes in order for him not to be drafted number 1 overall.
A massive felony. Do not know small felony.
No.
He'd have to like when you say kill somebody, he'd have to really murder somebody.
Gruesomely kill somebody. Like that Morocco girl. Shout out her. For those watching the World Cup. I'm sorry, I have to mention it. We turned on the nation so dang fast because this girl started. Have you seen that clip?
No, I haven't. But I know what you're talking about.
So I'm on TikTok one day and I'm scrolling down and it's these people need to die. It was a picture of Hitler, picture of some other people, and then it was this little girl. I didn't know who it was. But this little girl after Morocco beat Portugal. Where's Ronaldo? He's at the airport. He's crying in his car. Poor Ronaldo. She has an accent. Obviously, she's from Morocco. We turned on Morocco so dang fast because I wanted Morocco to win. They couldn't keep up with France. So shout out Argentina and Morocco. We already know Argentina has won the World Cup. If you've watched any of the handball, that's a discussion for another day. That's not the kind of show. We're not really soccer. But I'm saying Victor Wembanyama would have to do something crazy in order for him not to go number 1 overall. So a lot of teams are starting to blow it up and start saying, "Hey, we are not good enough to win a championship now. Let's just tank for the future." One of those teams, shout out Cameron, he's a Chicago guy, Chicago Bulls fan. Chicago Bulls look like they're gonna blow it up. They have not been good. Their championship window is now. They have DeMar DeRozan, who's aging. They have Zach LaVine, who's a somewhat of a young star. But without Lonzo Ball, they haven't been great. They're out of the play-in right now. And it leads me to believe in a season where Victor Wembanyama is the prize at the end for sucking. There is no prize for making the play-in and losing in the first round. There is no prize. There is a prize if you tank and get the number 1 overall pick. Even if you get the number 2 overall pick, Scoot Henderson is a great player. Amen Thompson at number 3, number 4, he's a great player. This is going to be this NBA trade deadline. You're going to see some crazy things happen. The Warriors are about to go all in. They have James Wiseman, they have Jonathan Kuminga, they have Moses Moody. They have a lot of things that they can trade. The Lakers have the 2 most valuable first round picks. According to NBA executives, they have the 2 most valuable first round picks and Russell Westbrook's massive contract. You could see DeMar DeRozan and Nikola Vucevic go to Los Angeles.
I feel like LeBron wants DeMar too. He tried to get him before. I think
He
was
did.
it this past offseason or a few years ago that he tried to get him?
He tried to get DeMar DeRozan. Didn't happen. He went for Westbrook. That's what happened. And he's been great off the bench.
We know about LeBron's decision making. I mean,
Yeah. Not the greatest. But so they have 2 valuable first round picks. Atlanta has John Collins, a great power forward, but there has been a rift between him and Trae Young for the longest time. And Phoenix has Jay Crowder, who's a starting power forward in of himself. And these are teams that I am expecting to make big moves because the Phoenix Suns have about $30 million that they can work with. There's some people that are saying Chris Paul might get traded in Phoenix media, which is not out because the Phoenix front office keeps everything close to the chest.
I mean that could be that Kardashian family getting real mad at him because D-Book's not dating Kendall no more, so you're good.
No.
That could be why though.
The thing is though is that ever since the tweet that Kanye made about Kim and CP3, that whole fiasco, Suns have been 0-7.
Coincidence?
I think so. I think so. But yeah, so
CP3 going through the Brady thing right now. Jeez,
that's what I'm
tough.
saying.
Guy's about to lose the only ring he's got.
That's what I'm saying. There's something going on in Phoenix. I don't really know what's going to happen. I don't see Phoenix blowing it up because Devin Booker is a superstar, but I will see Phoenix make a drastic move. I would not be surprised if KD's in Phoenix.
KD wants to be in Phoenix.
He's expressed that he wants to be in Phoenix.
Out loud, openly expressed. Probably on his Twitter burner. That's probably the only thing he tweets on his Twitter burner, if I had to guess.
Well, he tweeted from his main.
Oh, he don't care no more. He don't care no more. People found all his burners in the past. He can't even hide a burner now.
Yeah, Kyle Kuzma has also expressed that he wants to be a part of the Phoenix Suns.
Kuzma would be a great pickup.
I think so.
Kuzma would be a great pickup. He can shoot.
Yeah, he's a 20 point per game scorer.
Yeah,
that would be on that Phoenix team.
He scores 20 points a game now.
Mm-hmm.
I always wonder what that Lakers roster would look like if LeBron would have been patient.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that he's being linked to the Lakers again. The Los Angeles Lakers are interested in Kyle
because now he's scoring points and he's good.
Yeah,
and LeBron wants him back because LeBron's that's the piece he kept. Mm-hmm. If you think about it, of all the pieces he moved, he kept Kuzma.
Which ultimately, that was the smartest decision he ever made.
Yeah.
In trading for Anthony Davis, he kept Kyle Kuzma instead of keeping Lonzo Ball. That was the greatest GM decision LeBron has ever made.
I think LeBron also knew that Lonzo needed out of LA.
Yeah.
He would have never figured out he wouldn't be in the league if I think on my mind, Lonzo never survives to this point in the league if he remains in LA.
No.
He's out of the league right now.
Yeah.
He was able to get away from his dad, get away from all the drama and the crap, go and actually work on his game and not have to work on establishing the big baller brand which never sold anything.
Mhm.
Because $500 shoes, $200 t-shirts, you're not Gucci and Dior. Like I'm not spending that money.
And you're not a top talent in the league either. Like,
People spend that money on like Jordan's second market because like it's a Jordan shoe.
Mhm.
They're not going to spend that money second market on a Lonzo Ball shoe.
No.
I don't think people would spend that money on a Lonzo Ball shoe right now, and he's not been bad in the league since he left LA.
And so, yeah, I would expect a lot of things to happen this trade deadline. Kyle Kuzma's getting moved for sure. He's already expressed that he doesn't want to be in Washington anymore.
Why would anybody?
No, except for Bradley Beal, because basically what happened, he said that there was no market for Bradley Beal.
I don't believe that there's no market for Bradley Beal.
No market with a contending team.
Well, with that contract, not a lot of contending teams can take on a max contract like his.
Well, he signed one of the most expensive contracts of all time.
Yeah, I mean
Which,
he's making good money, good for him. But like, I guess you want to lose. I
if
mean,
if there was no market for Bradley Beal, though, why did you give him that big of a contract? Washington, like if there's no market for you're not betting against everybody. Like, I mean, I don't know of a good example, but it's like you're
they have to sell tickets somehow.
yeah.
I guess Bradley Beal's the only way to do so.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanna build around Bradley Beal and, Tingus Pingus, in that roster, if you know, you know, go right ahead, but Kyle Kuzma's gone. Roy Hachimura, he hasn't done anything. He's a player that I really like. I thought he might have been Kawhi Leonard. I still think he can be with the right development. Like, if I put him in Toronto right now, I think he could be that guy. But, yeah, Washington doesn't have anything going for them. They're kind of in the middle, which is why I expect them to blow it up. They might if Kyle Kuzma gets shipped to Phoenix, Bradley Beal might get shipped to LA. Kristaps Porzingis might be a juicy contract. Go bring him on another team, Reunion with the Knicks if the Knicks want to compete. But in my opinion, I think I have 4 teams that I'm saying will blow it up. That's Toronto Raptors. Toronto Raptors will blow it up. I am sure of that. Pascal Siakam, he's gonna be gone. That's a max player. Fred VanVleet, he's gonna be gone. That's a max player. He hasn't been shooting great. They haven't been great. And so they're just gonna build around Scotty Barnes. And, if they win the lottery, Victor Wembanyama, great 2 players to start a franchise off with, and OG Anunoby. So, Toronto's gonna blow it up. Chicago, in my opinion, is blowing it up. DeMar is gone. I don't know where he's going. Some say Los Angeles. That's the only team I'm hearing is Los Angeles. But the Chicago Bulls have said they don't want Russell Westbrook. Hard to get that deal done if they don't want Russell Westbrook. It has to be a 3-teamer, 4-teamer.
They want AD. That's who they want.
He's from Chicago.
That's who they want. They want AD. And I don't think LeBron's going to let AD get out of LA. The spacing, if they lose AD, not that AD can shoot, but if you add DeMar DeRozan, who, yeah, he's figured it out, maybe a little shooting in Chicago, like mid range. He's done a little bit. He's improved his 3-point shot though, but that's because that team is full of shooters in Chicago. Like there's a bunch of shooters on that roster, so he can back up when healthy. A bunch of shooters on that roster.
Yeah.
He can back up to the 3-point line a little bit in the corner. He can't shoot from the 3 either, though, and that's one of the Lakers' biggest issues still. It's like that's what the NBA has gone to. It's literally gone to like the 3-point shooting league, and LeBron seems to blatantly ignore that when he builds a roster in the offseason.
Yeah.
Confuses me.
Well, the thing is, he expects you're just a shooter, so we can get you on a minimum deal. Duncan Robinson shot good for 1 season, and he's getting paid $15 million a year. Like, I don't know what LeBron was thinking. Yeah, but Duncan Robinson has the worst contract in the NBA. Like, if Miami makes a move, Duncan Robinson's in that deal. They're going to sneak him in. That's how they're going to get the salaries to work. Is Duncan Robinson has to be in that deal, which sucks for Miami because Miami can't really do anything because they have to hide Duncan Robinson in the deal. He's going to be in the fine print somewhere just to make the money work. But I expect Toronto to blow it up, Chicago to blow it up, New York to blow it up, and I do expect the Jazz to blow it up as well. So like the players, I see Pascal Siakam, DeMar DeRozan, Julius Randle. Cam Reddish is already gone from New York. They've already expressed that he wants to be shipped out. Utah Jazz, I mean, they have Jordan Clarkson, they have Vanderbilt. They have a lot of pieces that they can move in order to tank this season. Chicago, DeMar DeRozan, Vucevic, Zach LaVine, Toronto. I mean, there's a lot of players here that would change the franchise. I mean, you put Vucevic and DeMar DeRozan on the Lakers team. Despite the spacing, they're a great team. It's hard to stop. You put a Julius Randle on the Phoenix Suns or on that. I don't know how it would work, but I would be excited to see that. You put Jordan Clarkson on a team like Atlanta. Give Trey Young another creator. That's a great team. The Warriors. I don't care who you give them. Any person on that team makes them 10 times better. So there's going to be a lot of movement. There's going to be teams that are going to become super teams after tomorrow or today when this episode comes out. There's going to be a lot of teams that this December 15th will tell you who's the contenders, who's not. And so I expect a lot of movement to happen. But that's all I got for the NBA. That's practically all. Oh, not true, not true. We do have one more topic we need to discuss. Um, do you have the tweet?
I have the ESPN article, which
Yeah.
I'll kind of go off of that. So there was a article a tweet that came out that said that the CBA negotiations, there been there was an opt out decision that was going to go live tomorrow, and the NBA or the NBA Players Association could decide to opt out of the current CBA, which would have been a massive thing. The season would have gone on as normal and as regularly scheduled. But if it would have been opted out of tomorrow, there would have been a workage stop on June 30th of this upcoming year. They decided to move that deadline to decide on that to February 8th, which is, you know, kind of right in the middle of kind of right at the middle slash end of the, trade deadline spot. I feel like that's
February 15th.
February 15th. So that's right in the middle that's probably the hottest time I feel like they should have had that. They should have kept that decision for today, like to decide that, because I feel like there's gonna be a lot going on around the NBA. Maybe they needed more time to think on it. But I expect that CBA to be opted out of. I don't I don't know what the revenue sharing is like in the NBA. I'm more familiar with the NFL CBA. I don't know if you're super familiar with the NBA CBA personally, but I'm very familiar with the NFL CBA just because the negotiations just currently went on. That includes everything from TV deals to player contracts to like revenue sharing. Like in the NFL, I think it's like 51 to 49, 51% goes to the owners, 49% of revenue sharing goes to the players, which then establishes like salary caps and stuff like that. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that works out, because if there's a workage stoppage, I expect the NBA Players Association to be very hardcore in the negotiation. I expect that to trickle in the next NBA season. Just me personally, just from like how I know those things work. It's not fun. That's not fun business to be messing around with. And you'll see some like real hate come out from like some of them NBA owners and some of the NBA Players Association. Like some real, like you'll see it being leaked to the media where it's like it'll be a real fight behind the scenes that won't get talked about.
As always, the NBA is filled with drama, and that's the catalyst of us. NFL rules the news, but NBA has a better storyline, in my opinion. There's a lot more stuff that goes on within the NBA, a lot more drama, in my opinion, that goes on in the NBA than does in the NFL.
And the NFL has kind of adopted a lot of what the NBA does, like a trade deadline special kind of on ESPN. Like they're doing big events for all their events, like trying to make the combine a commercialized event. The combine is so boring.
A commercial
Yes,
is that big.
They're trying to move it from city to city to get fans to come to it. They're trying to make this less of more of an event than it is a current scouting event. Nobody wants the NFL Combine moved from Indianapolis. The reason why is because all of those owners are extremely rich. All of those scouts, they scout. I mean, they have connections. They hang out at those bars in Indianapolis. Indianapolis, a lot of bars. Good hosting city. The way it's built, I was in it over the summer. Good hosting city. The way as long as there's no construction on I-70, which They need to get that figured out. Traffic was absolutely miserable trying to go downtown Indy over the summer. I guess I was also there doing a massive event going on. I can't remember what it was. It was some kind of con, not a Comic Con, but like Gen Con. Don't know what that is, but it was something like that. I mean, it's something with it, something along those lines. Some homeless guy asked me for money on the street. I told him no. Like he said, I don't want to scam these people down here at this con. So can you just give me money here? I was like, nah, go down the street and scam them. Like whole thing, like, yeah, he was bizarre. Pretty much pinned me in a corner, and I was like, well, I mean, it's broad daylight, but I'll smack you in the mouth. But it's whatever. But Indianapolis, great hosting city, nonetheless. They want to move it from city to city. It's like, why would you do that? Like, why would you do that? Unless you're trying to make this an event to bring fans into, which doesn't need to be done. This is an event where business is done. A lot of business is handled at the combine. A lot of like NFL like trades, NFL movement, stuff like that, all starts and begins right there at that combine because all of the owners are in a centralized location. All the GMs, pretty much in a centralized location, unless you're Bill Belichick and want to scout out some undrafted player at Middle Tennessee State. But yeah, that's kind of like what the NFL is trying to do. And they've gotten those kind of ideas from the NBA because they see the NBA drama and they see how that's great for news. And the NFL has been trying to take some of that stuff and add it into them and just add some of that drama and that storyline. They're good at it, but the NBA is just so much better. The NBA is so much better. I
It,
went off on a wild tangent there, but you get it.
if the NFL did something like that, I would like they wanted to change cities, put it in the city where the number one pick is. Like if like you really want to change the city, you really want to have like some marketable thing. Put it. Who has the number one overall pick? Texans.
Yeah, but I feel like you have to kind of have that all planned out long before. Like, what they'll do is they'll do it like the way the draft works. Like the draft, it makes sense to do that with the draft
Oh, like
because the draft is pretty much a celebration of the sport.
yeah,
Like you bring all the fans from every team because it's like that's like a new beginning for every team. Every team that's not currently a playoff contender, it's like, oh, we got a top 5 pick. This could turn our franchise around. Team picking last, they know they're good. How can we get better? It's like it's a big celebration. The combine does not need to be that. Does not need to be that because it's going to ruin the experience.
yeah.
And people will stop going to it. It won't affect business, but because the owners will, they'll figure that out. But yeah, it's just bizarre. Like it's weird.
Yeah, if they do try to change anything, maybe put in the drafts or where the city's going to be drafted. So where is the draft this year?
I have absolutely no idea.
I know it was in Vegas last
It was
year.
in. I'm gonna go Kansas City. I don't know why I feel like it's Kansas City, but I'm just leaning towards that it's Kansas City. I will check that, but yeah, let's see. Where is the NFL draft?
If you ever want to host something though, Arizona's a great place. That's why the Super Bowl has been there a couple times, just because great,
There this year.
yeah, great hosting city. Which I wish I could go, but I will be here in college, just because it's right in my hometown. You know, the Cowboys will probably be playing in the Super Bowl, so it'll be a great Super Bowl to watch. Um, it was Kansas City.
Don't know how I remember that, but it is Kansas City.
That is random. So probably not the best place then. You know, outdoor.
Yeah, you want an indoor. You want an indoor, so that definitely wouldn't want to hold the combine there. Just keep it in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Like, no one wants to. Like, Indianapolis is not great. Like, and it's cold during February. Like, people don't travel there during February. Nobody wants to go there. It's just pretty much NFL people going there in February and media people that want to, you know, they want to buy the owner a drink and maybe get him a little drunk and tipsy and get him to talk a little too much. You know, that's what goes on at the combine. Let that keep going on because it's good for the NFL.
Yeah.
If you bring a bunch of fans in and fans bombard their owner at a bar, not going to be fun.
Don't change anything. Forget what I said. Don't change anything. It's great what it is. Um, you know, but yeah. Anything else that we need to touch on? You think or
Now, to be honest, I think that's it. I think that is, I think that is everything. So with that being said,
we ran long?
yeah, we did. We went way longer than we expected to. We literally talked prior to this, and we didn't set a set time, but I think we were both thinking 45 minutes max, probably. Yeah, we went like a whole half hour over that, hour and 15. I think been great conversation, a great banter back and forth. I think this has been one of our better episodes in a while. Not to, like I'm judging what we do, but feel like this was one of the best episodes we've had in a long time because there isn't, sometimes it's better when there's not as many people to bounce off of. Like, not saying that's a problem. Like, we love our hosts, our co-hosts, but sometimes when it's just one or two people, it's easier to navigate the conversation.
It's more streamlined. It's not like
Yeah,
your opinion, we value your opinion, we value your opinion, but, like, yeah, it's more streamlined, it goes just a little bit faster, which is
yeah. Well, still hour 15. I
yeah,
mean, still
it's
hour
sports.
15.
There's always news in
Yeah,
sports.
yeah. And I went on some tangents, but I feel like they were good conversation pieces. Well, I have no idea pretty much anything that I said throughout this whole episode. I mean, outside of our audio issues, we would have been done like an hour ago if it wasn't for that. But with that being said, this is the last episode we will do in person until next semester, which is like 5 weeks from now.
Yeah, January 22nd is, I think, when we're all back on campus.
That is the last time that we will do an episode until with us all in the room at the same time. So with that being said, we will do some episodes over the winter break. We'll see how those go. I have plans for a mass production of content over the winter break because as of now there is no current job lined up for me and I will be unemployed and I have some free time. So I will be producing content as long as if I find a job, I'll still try to produce as much content as possible. But if I do not find a job, expect content at a very high rate. Specifically at the start of the new year, I've said some changes were coming. I will be dropping some very cool videos that are fully edited at the beginning of the year. I think you guys will enjoy those, but just tease you with that for now. Next episode, I'll probably be wearing a Christmas sweater from here on out until Christmas Day, because my Christmas sweater is at home. But I am looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to getting home, taking a break. I know Nate is as well. School's been rough this semester. School has kicked me in the butt. I don't know about you, um, but
I'm
regard,
still hoping I passed the class, so
yeah,
it's been bad.
yeah, yeah. I'm safe in all my classes. I'm good. So I'm chilling. I feel good. Let's hope Nate passes class. With that being said, fingers crossed. We are hoping he did, and we are hoping you guys really enjoyed this episode. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.